Warning. This episode contains foul language, stories of murder and suicide, and icky but somehow nice feelings.
Hey weirdos! You are listening to Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange, unusual, haunted, abandoned, spooky, unsettling, dusty, musty, crusty, and everything in between. Each week we sit down together from across the country and we talk about something weird. And this week we are continuing our discussion of very unusual, unexpected haunted locations. Ashley kicked us off last week talking about some very fascinating made-to-be haunted rooms.
DIY.
DIY haunted rooms, causing very disturbing feelings. And this week, we are going to throw in some liminal spaces and some very random and unexpected haunted spots your way. Would you ever think the local grocery store could be haunted? Well, you're dead wrong if you said no. Let's go visit some surprising, spooky spaces. Say that 10 times fast. My name is Lauren, and this is my co-host, Ashley.
Hi, weirdos. Surprising spooky
Hello.
spaces.
Surprising spooky space. I wasn't even trying to be funny. I actually messed that up. Surprising spooky spaces.
Surprising spooky spaces. Surprising spooky spaces.
Okay, well, we can't all be amazing.
Well,
at
listen,
speech as
here's
you
the
are,
thing.
Ashley.
I was stoic when I was saying that. I had no fun whatsoever. I was staring at a singular point on the wall, and I was concentrating with all my might in the whole world. So.
And that is the way to say it. Welcome back to Surprising Spooky Spaces, everyone.
Welcome. We're talking about haunted stuff.
Yay! Weirdly haunted stuff. We love the haunts.
I do. And a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, but I feel like especially in the later seasons, if we're not doing a hometown haunts and we're not doing a listener ghost stories episode, we don't really get to talk about hauntings that much.
I know.
And
then
I
we
could
have
be
so
wrong,
much
but
fun
I
when
really
we're
feel
doing
like
it.
I know. I love make a mental note of all of these locations in my brain. And I'm like, someday.
I know.
I will travel and I will see them.
Especially, well, I'm just so excited that we keep finding ones that are close to us.
I know.
I say close to us, but Central Illinois, where
Close to
my
me.
family lives and now Ashley lives, I'm like, we are going to go to these spots. This is realistic.
Just move here. What's holding you back?
I know. Honestly, I'm getting closer to every day. I can't do the prices out here in California anymore, even though I'm looking out right now and it's like the most beautiful day I've ever seen. But you said it was stunning in Champaign.
70 degrees today. Here's the thing. I truly did not realize how much I missed weather.
Like seasons.
Literally, when I was like, what am I going to miss about LA? The weather. I have not missed it once. I love weather, like changing
Good.
weather and like having a nice day after you've had like a rainy few days or a snowstorm or whatever. It's like, oh, you feel almost like rejuvenated by it. And maybe that'll fade. Maybe that's like a new thing. But you really do. Like when you can open the windows after a couple of days of crummy weather, it feels like you're a new person.
See, it's funny. I don't think that fades. I think that is living in the Midwest at its finest.
Yeah.
And I say that because that is like, I remember having that experience when I lived there long ago. But also, like, my sister, I talk to my sister every day, and that is always her attitude. If it's snowy, if it's cold, I'm hearing like the winter, like sad Julia. Like, a shout out to her. I know she's listening to this, but she would agree. She's like, it's horrible out today. It's cold. I hate everything. Goodbye. But then if you go through that and suddenly you get a beautiful day where you can open the windows, she's like, I'm in a tank top. I'm sitting on my patio. I have a beer. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm like, I think that stays with you always.
I feel like I get outside more in the Midwest for some reason.
Because you appreciate it more.
Yeah, because in
California,
LA,
you're like, it's always
every
beautiful.
day's
I don't
nice.
care.
Yeah.
Which, yes, that's not a bad thing. Like, shout out to California. You're lovely. But it's like, you take it for granted because you're like, well, it's always beautiful. So it's okay if I'm sitting inside. I think you do appreciate it more when you have some seasons, when you have to go through some things.
Everyone should follow us on social media. Our handle is at Keep It Weirdcast. Specifically on Instagram, you know how we feel about Twitter. It's just not going to happen.
It's not in the cards for us.
Stop trying to make Twitter happen. It's not going to happen for us. We've tried it so many fucking times.
Lord, yes, we have.
It'll be like 4 times a year I'll tweet like, we're back on Twitter.
And I love when I see it happen. I'm like, look at Ashley go. And
look
then
at her. She's doing such a good job.
We go silent again. And I'm like, you know what? I don't blame her because I don't understand Twitter.
I don't. The reason that I say that is because we're starting a couple new things this season. We have been doing since November. We've been doing Witchy Wednesdays. And they fucking rule. Lucky, that's her Instagram. Lucky LaRue. Laura
I wasn't even gonna question
LaRue,
you. I was like, yeah, her name's Lucky.
Who has been on the show before. She did our reincarnation episode, and just recently she came on for a witchcraft episode, is a green witch. She basically, we post them, but she makes the posts for Witchy Wednesdays, and she teaches spells. She teaches different... this week she baked a cake and it was awesome, and she told you what all the ingredients meant and, you know, what the cake was for. It's a cake for spring equinox, and it was awesome. So Witchy Wednesdays rule.
We're so thankful for Laura, and she makes witchcraft accessible, because I do think there is still the, like, not for most of our listeners. I'm like, if you're a listener of the show, I think you're very into the witchy things, but there's a few people who, you know, there's a stigma, and it, like, they're a little scared of it, and it's like Laura shows you that it can just be a part of your everyday life, and it's easy.
And that it is a part of your everyday life. It's just a matter of putting intention behind what you're doing.
Right.
In order to make it more meaningful, pretty much.
Totally.
Putting an intention behind the bath you take or the cake that you bake. Oh, that rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
Is witchcraft. So, but I'm also working on trying to put together Medium Mondays with Amy Goldenberg. I'm hoping to get that started. She's such a busy girl, though. It might just be like
she is
the first Monday of the month, but still.
Even if she was Mondays, once a month, it would change everybody's life because she's so phenomenal. So, and I'm
also working on getting together Tarot Tuesdays, where we have a tarot card reader who I follow and love, Busy Bee Coven Tarot, I think is her.
Yes,
I probably got that wrong,
but correct.
She has the funniest tarot deck, and she's really great. I love her sense of humor, and I love her posts, and she's going to start constructing some Tuesday tarot posts for us. So yeah, follow us on social media. We got a couple different creators working with us to make content for you guys, and I think it's going to be pretty fun this season.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't hold it back. I tried and I couldn't. And it was, I know. Yes, I agree. Social media. That's what that sneeze meant. Let's go. That's what it meant.
Also, can I give some shout outs real quick?
Let's do it.
Real quick, guys. I know we're at minute 9. So while we were on a hiatus, we had quite a few people join our Patreon, and I just want to give them a quick thank you. So thank you so much to Jenny Frisk, Jacqueline Guzone, Christina Carlson, Emma Santora, Anna Marie McGinley Hunsley. Yes, that is one name.
Beautiful name.
Courtney Harp, Krista Graham, Luke Carroll, Charlie West, Viorella, a.k.a. Lily, Rachel Jaworski, and just in case we missed you in November, because I honestly can't for the life of me remember if we got shout-outs in at the end there, but thank you again, or for the first time, Courtney Cloud and Natalie Carr. Amazing. Thank you so much for donating to our show and making this possible. I know we lost a lot of you too over the holiday season, because who has extra cash lying around in December?
Who has the money? We don't blame you one bit.
But I hope that you'll make your way back to us someday. And just a reminder, the way that we make money off of this podcast is through our Patreon and obviously ads, but honestly, ads do not pay what you think they do. So
Yep.
please consider donating to our show at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. And to everyone who has donated in the past or is currently donating, thank you so much. We love you.
Yay.
I told you it'd be fast. I told you it'd be so fast.
I know, you really, you got it in there. It was quick. You didn't take away from the show. I think the magic is still there.
Magic's still
Everyone's
running
still
through
with us. Yes. Okay. I know that I'm going to get into a bunch of weird ass stuff in just a little bit, but what are you bringing today? Tell us, please.
I'm talking about liminal spaces today. And this is a topic that we've had requested multiple times.
Yes.
And I'm not even going to fib. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't really know much about it or why it was all of a sudden being talked about in the paranormal community. Before my research, I kind of knew what a liminal space was. I saw photos of an empty office or a hallway or whatever with a caption that said liminal space. And I was like, sure, it's eerie. I get it.
Sure, why not? Yeah.
Let's do it. It's liminal.
Which it's totally fair because, if it's if you're just going on the direct definition, you could be okay, it's a hallway. What do you want from me?
Why?
But man, it can get spooky.
It can. And I actually found out I love liminal spaces. And of course I do.
Not a surprise.
A liminal space is a location that is a transition between other locations or states of being. Now, the thing about liminal spaces is that, yes, oftentimes they are empty spaces that maybe should be filled, like a mall after closing time or a school hallway after hours. What makes it a liminal space isn't just that it's empty, but that it's simultaneously unsettling and also conjures feelings of familiarity. What?
Why? But it does.
It does. And it's a very strange crosshair between nostalgia and being creeped out, which, if you are raised like I was, being creeped out in and of itself brings on a lot of nostalgia. Because I was a weird, creepy kid. And, it brings me back.
Yep.
Now, the reason I was why the hell is the paranormal community all of the sudden talking about liminal spaces? Why did it fall into our world? It's not a term I had ever heard before. But that answer was really easy to find because we didn't really have a name for the phenomenon until May 12th, 2019, when
brand new,
an anonymous 4chan user, which 4chan is,
it has its issues.
It's got its issues, but we're going to forgive it for this.
Just for
one
this
thing.
moment.
An anonymous 4chan user posted in a paranormal chat asking for disquieting images that just feel off. And of course, some people posted really creepy haunted ass photos, but others posted mundane photos like the dark school hallway after hours and the empty the empty hotel pool area. A playground at night. And people were like, why do I find these images appealing?
Why do I hate them?
And also I hate them?
I have actual goosebumps on my arm from you saying the school hallway after dark, and maybe I need to explore that in therapy, but that's the one that gets me the most.
Yeah, I have goosebumps too. It's fucking creepy. But thus, the idea of a liminal space was born. In the context of the spooky, because liminal spaces got their name from literal liminality. Liminality in architecture, for example, is literally the physical spaces between one destination and the next. So yes, hallways, airports, streets, etc.
Ooh, abandoned airport.
No thanks.
I don't want it.
Even a liminal space in terms of dimensions can be, a crossroads or a borderland type situation, like the border between two states can technically be a liminal space when you're talking in terms of dimensions. But you can even look at liminality in religious or mythological terms, and when you do that, you get places like purgatory. So it's not hard to make the connection here and why we gave these strange places this specific terminology. Liminal spaces, before they had that name, have been a staple of the horror community for decades. And one of the best liminal moments in classic horror is absolutely The Shining.
Oh, hell yeah. That empty hotel.
Yeah, almost the entire movie takes place in a liminal space. The fact that this hotel is empty for the winter, a place that should be full of people, and it's eerily not. And
right.
Stanley Kubrick really knew how to play with this idea of space, because the Overlook Hotel is not a crumbling, spooky mansion. It's a well-kept hotel.
Right.
It's
a nice
place.
Have weddings there. We've talked about that.
To this day. We had a listener ghost story written in about the Stanley Hotel. But I actually always compare this to the remake of The Haunting, the one with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Owen Wilson, because that house was ridiculous. Like, of course you'd get creeped out there with all the baby heads carved in the walls and, like, that weird carousel room.
You made it too obvious.
Yeah.
You went over the top. We didn't need it.
The biggest painting of the scariest Hugh Crane in history. Honestly, it's lazy, I think.
It is. Like, that's too obvious of creeps. I think like the unsettling views of empty hotel hallways, the subtlety that The Shining used was what made it beautiful. We don't need baby heads.
Well, and what Stanley Kubrick did was he would narrow and lengthen the hallways just so they were just a little bit off, so that you look at them and be like, He made some colors in the hotel overly bright, and then he would mute other colors in the hotel. And he also designed the hallways to turn in shapes that didn't make any sense if you were to map it out. Like, especially when Danny's riding his little tricycle thing all around. The way, like, the turns that he's doing, if you actually were to map it out, it make no sense whatsoever in a space.
Oh.
And Stanley Kubrick used extended tracking shots at several points in the movie to help the viewer understand the dimensions and the structure of the hotel. But then he would throw in things like a window facing a sunny day, but it should absolutely have just been facing a blank wall or a dark hallway. And he did this on purpose. They're all things that you don't really notice unless you're looking for them. But subconsciously, if you're paying enough attention to the movie, you start to feel unsettled by them.
Right. Man, that's so genius.
It's brilliant.
I can't. Okay, now I feel like I have to watch The Shining tonight and watch for those things.
Yeah,
that's
rewatch
so
it. It's wild. But experiencing a liminal space in real life almost feels dreamlike and can actually make you feel like you're experiencing an alternate reality. Because it's a sensation of unease, but not accompanied by danger. So, like, if you're uneasy because there's a shady character in an empty parking lot, or you're walking by yourself next to a cemetery, that's a different feeling of unease.
Right.
This one's more so like the feeling, I came up with this scenario in my head of a time that I felt a liminal space, and maybe you've experienced it before too. But this is more so like the feeling you get when, say, you're on a road trip and it's late at night and you stop at a rest stop, you go in, you pee, whatever, you come out to the car, but you beat your partner to the car, so you have to wait a minute outside the car, and there are other cars around, but no other people really, and it's well lit, but there's this feeling of like, I'm the last person on Earth.
Yeah.
No one else exists.
Yep.
And that's the strange feeling that you're talking about. And again, I even noted this. One of the strongest liminal spaces feelings comes from a darkened school hallway. And anyone who ever had to be at school after hours for basketball games, Christmas programs, whatever, and you look down the hallway that you were in every single day, but now the lights are off and no one is down there. It just, there's something about it that is strange.
That's why it gave me chills when you mentioned it the first time, and I think it's because I have like so many memories of this being the musical theater nerd that I was in high school. We would have really late night rehearsals, and when everyone would leave, there were a couple times I'd have to go back to my locker because I'm an idiot and I would have like forgotten my code and like this and that. So I'd go back to my locker, which was outside of like the choir room. I purposely like requested that locker because again, nerd, and I was in choir musical theater, but the choir like area, like because it only had like the band room and the choir room was like kind of off by itself on like the separate wing. So it was just this like dark, empty, like weird hallway already. Like it kind of had an eerie feel, even to start with. Even during the day, it was a little off-putting, but to be there at night when there's normally at least a little hustle and bustle and like familiar faces, when it was just me getting my coat, the way that I would do my combination on my walker faster than I've ever done it, because I was like, this is awful. I have to get out of here. Like, what is going on? It wasn't even that I thought I was going to be like murdered, you know? It wasn't that fear.
Right.
It was just like, ew. Like, it was just gross. It was like
ew.
dread. Yeah, it just was ew. And I would go so fast grabbing my coat and getting out of there, and then I wouldn't see another soul until I was like out in the parking lot with the other few stragglers. But that empty hallway,
yeah, but it's
really got
also
to me.
like one of the strongest emotional pulls from childhood, though, because I can think of,
I think about it a lot.
I don't have any specific memories in the hallways of my grade school. I can't really think of anything specific until I think of after hours times at the school, especially like basketball games. I remember so our
after a sporting event.
Our gym was, and I went to a Lutheran school, so the classes were very small. I think my graduating class was like 13, 14, 15 kids.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so
very
small.
tiny. But I remember our gym was at one end of the hall, and then very long building all the way at the other end, the church. So when you're at the gym and you're looking down this hall, I mean, the hallway was so long you couldn't actually see to the end. And churches are creepy. So like
just
every
knowing that a church is at the end.
Emotional pulling memory that I have from my grade school is dark hallways after hours. So obviously there's something there that is nostalgic in some way for some reason. But what I also found interesting, and something that possibly needs to be studied in the future, when I think about all our listener ghost stories sent in, and when I think about the experiences that I've had with the paranormal, a lot of them evoke the same feeling of liminality, and a lot of ghosts seem to like hallways and stairwells and doors.
It's true. You think of all the stories submitted where even if it's like I was in my room but I looked out into the hallway and like saw this and that, it's very common.
So the question becomes, are we experiencing weird things in those spaces because they evoke certain feelings in us? Or are those spaces actually spaces in which reality thins and alternate realities and dimensions can bleed through? And when I thought about that, I thought about feng shui. And I think we'll definitely do an episode on feng shui in the future because it's a fascinating topic. But just to keep the description brief for anyone who doesn't exactly know, feng shui is an ancient Chinese art of arranging things in an environment to achieve harmony and balance. And it has a lot to do with energy flow. It stems from the Taoist belief in qi, which is the life force that inhabits everything. Energy, yin and yang, you get it.
Right.
So when this energy is balanced in our bodies and in our environment, our energy can flow freely and things just seem to work better. And anyone who has felt more energized in a room after getting rid of clutter or rearranging furniture knows this to be true.
Yep.
Also, anyone who's taken a big dump after doing an hour of yoga knows this to be true. Like aligning your energy.
That is so real. Thank you for saying that. That's very true.
Aligning your energy makes things flow. So
that's right.
All of this is basically to say that if we look at ghosts as some form of energy, or that they need energy,
which we do a lot.
Yeah, which we do a lot, or that they need energy like heat or electricity to materialize or make themselves known. Liminal spaces are kind of flowing energy spaces, and it would make sense that those would be the areas ghosts would be able to be seen. Because you think about a hallway, there's not a lot of stagnant energy. It's flowing energy. I walk down the hallway.
It's supposed to be flowing.
I walk back down the hallway. I walk this way. Like, there's no stagnant standing energy in a hallway.
Yeah, it's moving.
Yeah, so if you're thinking of something that needs energy to manifest itself, a hallway is a really great place to manifest, to use that energy.
That's so true.
So maybe that's why liminal spaces are so creepy.
I'm also looking into my hallway because I can see it from my dining room table, and that's where like our, I know, first of all, you're so rude because I'm just staring at it and it's dark. Even though it's daylight out, the hallway is always dark because there's no windows, but also our like breaker box, our circuit breaker is in there. And so if they're using like any kind of electrical energy, they would maybe take it from that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying they as in, you know, any little ghosty that decides to enter here. And I did have, as we spoke about Amy Goldberg, the medium who we love earlier, she said that there was a grandmother spirit who lived in this apartment. And I think she's been using the circuit breaker because we've seen things in our hallway. And also Wilder's room is at the end of the hallway and she's appeared there. And it all just is
and also
adding up
you used to have weird things with your fan and lights too, right?
God damn it. Yes, Ashley.
Okay, sorry.
I can't. Listen.
Sorry, just reminding you.
It's all no, I know. You're like you're so correct. You're just correct. That's a good theory. The hallways, man.
Which I know I mentioned this on another episode, but you know, that's a reason why a lot of, well, at least in the beginning, before we had all the TV shows, paranormal investigators would investigate places at night. And it was because you could turn off all of the electronics. You could turn everything off so that, and also to have that layer of darkness so that other senses are heightened, because it's more likely that you're going to hear or sense something than see it.
Exactly.
But, you know, we've even done this. We've got a video. I should go back and see if I can get more clips from that video of that ghost box session we did with Tyler at the Queen Mary.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because we were using a flashlight as our energy source, and something actually was using it.
It was reacting
and I don't know what was using it or how they were using it. But it happened to us at the Queen Mary. It also happened to us at my old apartment where something was drawing energy from a flashlight and also from our camera. Yep. So
1,000%. Oh, that is so true. Gosh, the Queen Mary was so good. That was such a good night.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, first of all, it was so much fun. Like, me, Ashley, and Tyler just had the time of our lives. But also, it felt like we were getting some decent results because, again, like, when we were out in the hallways, you know, there were people passing us here and there, and you could say we were picking up those things. But when we were just, like, quietly in our room, also having some reactions on the ghost box and the flashlight, it was touched
for the first time on an investigation.
You did.
And I did not like it. Really, the first time. I have been touched before, but
that was different.
It was completely different because, one, it was my grandfather, I believe. And I was not afraid. But this...
Yeah, I think that's important to note. You weren't scared. That's why it feels like it was someone...
This felt like something was toying with me because it happened twice. And it happened like kind of in the same way where it felt like something was like brushing my hair behind my ear. And I did not appreciate it. And then I had to sleep with a possessed man. Anyways, we don't have to get into it. It was a whole thing. Yeah,
Tyler had a demon. I didn't sleep a wink the whole night because I was alone in a room, which I think was with a child ghost. Yeah, it's another...
Yeah, you guys should go back and listen to our Queen Mary investigation. It's a good time.
Honestly, yes.
Okay.
Liminal spaces, though, man.
I know. I actually am now, of course, I've looked at like 30 different pictures of liminal spaces just today. And I really do love it.
Yeah, me too. I love it and hate it because I do get like, depending on the photo, not all photos give me the same reaction, but a lot of them, I mean, the school hallway type pictures especially give me some kind of feeling.
Well, I think the reason they don't all give you a reaction is because there is some weird link to nostalgia with the liminal space phenomenon. Yes. So, yeah, if it's something where it's like, well, I've never been to a mall at night. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
you need that feeling of familiarity.
Yeah, but you might have, say, for example, a good liminal space. This is hilarious. A really good liminal space in video games would be Lara Croft's home.
Oh my God.
So, like, I've never been alone in a mansion, but I have played Lara Croft Tomb Raider a billion times.
And you feel really good in that space.
So if you showed me a picture of an empty mansion that looked like Laura Croft, I might get that liminal space vibe because I'd be thinking about my pointy-breasted friend Laura Croft.
And honestly, I love that for you. I love that. Also, did you know, speaking of liminal spaces, this was where I had told Ashley earlier some of my notes may cross over with this, and I found that someone came up with a term. This probably came around the same time liminal spaces came up. This is all very recent. But people were looking for, hey, is there a phobia for, like, if you're looking at a liminal space and you're very upset by it and, like, can't go on? And there's not necessarily a phobia term yet, but there is a term for, like, that uneasy feeling. So it's called canopsia or canopsia, Kenopsia. It is the eerie, forlorn atmosphere of a place that's usually bustling with people but is now abandoned and quiet. Examples would be a school hallway in the evening, an unlit office on a weekend, vacant fairgrounds, which we talked about on our Louisiana episode, talking about like the weird Six Flags, or an emotional after image that makes it seem not just empty but hyper empty. So yeah, that is actually a little feeling when you walk into that atmosphere when you're just like, ooh, I feel terrible. That's a thing.
There is, I have not watched it, so I can't vouch for it, but I saw that there is a documentary on Amazon Prime about the abandoned Six Flags in New Orleans.
Well, I'm going to have to watch it.
Because it's kind of embroiled in like drama.
Is it?
Because of, I don't know, funding. I really don't know. I just know that they made a documentary about, like, where it's at now and what's kind of going on with it. And
well, yeah, we touched on it so briefly. People have been fighting over that property for years, and now, like, athletes with a bunch of money want to drop things on it, but other people are like, no, there's so much history.
People who maybe owned it at the time, there's something with, like, insurance money. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on, because I watched the trailer, and I was like, oh, and then I just never got to it.
Well, we might all need to check that out, everybody. Okay. So, yes, abandoned spaces, liminal spaces, they give us all the feelings. And it kind of goes into what I'm talking about today, because some of these places that I'm going to describe, like, have that feeling about them, but some of them are also just random and weird. Haunted places you don't expect to be haunted. So I want to jump in first with the K-Mart conspiracy. Do you know anything about? I know. I didn't know anything about this.
No idea. I did see a K-Mart pop up when I was initially. That's something I wanted to talk about too. I initially did go into this looking for haunted places that shouldn't be haunted.
You did, but you are the best at going off and finding new things.
Ended up where I did. But I do remember seeing something about a K-Mart. But is there more K-Marts?
There is, because I know the one that you saw. It's the most famous one. It's in New York City. That is the most famous one. I'm going to touch on that. But what came from the most haunted K-Mart, which is just funny to say, is that other people from the internet, as they do, came forward and were like, oh shit, my K-Mart was haunted as well. So
what?
While researching this episode, I found out K-Mart is such a thing. It is like the curse of the old K-Mart stores, because K-Mart stores, sadly, are all closed now. They started to close around like 2011, I think, was when the first one closed. And then they just over the years slowly have. And then like one of the final ones, and I think even the haunted New York City one just closed in like 2020 or 2021. Super recent.
Wow.
Some of them were absorbed by Sears, and that's how they were able to thrive for a little bit of time. But now Sears are also closing all over the country. So just not any luck. Department stores in general, sadly, are coming to an end, and also malls.
You should see the mall in Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Oh, God. Is it thriving?
No, it is.
It's awful?
It advertises that there is a JC
You
Penney
told me
there,
this, and then there was nothing.
There's nothing there. Joe and I, we wanted to go and get something for my mom for Christmas, we literally... It was wild. We went there because it said they had a JCPenney. It said they had, I don't even fucking remember, like a Maurice's. I don't know. There were like 4 different places that they said
yes, we
this
about
fucking mall had. And we get there. I'm not kidding. There was nothing. There were like weird kiosks in the center with people selling like fucking what are those little twisty things you see sold at fairs that you're supposed to, they're like wind chimes, but they make no noise. They just like make shapes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I do know what you're talking about, but I have no clue
so
what
there's
those
like
are called.
a kiosk
yes,
selling
they
that.
spin around. Okay.
And it's just like all the stores are closed. And it's like, you sons of bitches, because on the website it says there's a JCPenney.
Don't say you're open.
And on the sign outside it says there's a JCPenney. You have to park your ass and walk into the mall to find out there's nothing left of the mall.
Oh, that
Anyways,
is rude.
that's my rant.
Because no, and it's a well-deserved rant because malls all over the country are closing, and that's just the reality. Malls can't really stay open anymore. It's not a thing. Everyone's doing online shopping or else like going to little boutiques and vintage stores, and it's all about repurposing now, which is wonderful. But people should advertise on their website that their mall is closed. Yeah. And I feel like we've mentioned these before on the podcast. I can't remember if it was a bonus episode or a real one, but I think we've talked about dead malls before and how, but maybe not. Maybe I've just read about them. But dead malls are basically a mall that has closed down, but like still stands and nobody has taken it over. And you can like, it's still open to the public where you can go in and kind of explore and investigate, but it's creepy as fuck. It actually goes perfectly with everything Ashley was talking about, where it's like it used to be a busy place filled with people and now it's empty and you're walking down these long hallways and you're just like,
echoey because there's not
this.
anything to soak up the sound anymore. Yeah.
Yes.
Creepy.
And everything's like falling apart and the escalators, like just all of it. It looks like it's out of a zombie apocalypse movie. It's crazy. But so that's what's happening to malls and department stores. And that's what happened to K-Mart, bringing it back. And I remember when K-Marts first started to shut down in Peoria, so this must have been like right around when I moved out to LA, or when I was just like, I'm sure I was already out here, but was just going home more often, because I remember the K-Mart shutting down in Peoria. It was like one of the big ones. I think we had two, and this was the bigger one. And being like, wow, that's a huge deal. It shut down, and it sat vacant for so long, and it did look creepy. It was like, it wasn't taken over for a long time, and there was like graffiti on the door and paint peeling off, and if you were able to peek in the window, it just looked like decrepit and scary. So I do remember that, but at first I was like, why are we attacking Kmart? They're not haunted and weird, it's fine. But then I was like, well, I guess ours did look weird. Like, I hope somebody from Peoria, besides my sister, I think we have a few other Peoria listeners, are also listening to this. Write in if you remember when the Kmart in Sheridan Village closed, because it looked creepy as hell to me, and I hope somebody else can confirm that. But it sat empty for a long time, blah, blah, blah. You saw the dark abyss. Had a strange vibe. So one of the more famous Kmarts that closed in New York that we were talking about, it was at Astor Place. Like, all of these articles have been written about it. It's like everybody knows it. People claimed it was just spooky from the get-go, not even because it had closed. It had an underground entrance that was for people getting off of the subway, so it made sense to have this subterranean entrance. They could walk straight in after they got off the train, but that alone just made it look weird because you're underground and you don't have the natural lights. You're having those weird yellow lights, like those dark yellow, non-sunshiny lights on, and it looks something like straight out of a scary movie, or like maybe an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode is more the level of fear that we're at. It just looked weird. And people who shopped at the store said they just constantly felt a bad energy. And the people who worked there experienced also that bad energy, but things being moved around, the feeling of being watched, the feeling like it was just an unsettled kind of feeling. And on top of it, the store was just never set up properly. People have said, like, different sections were constantly being rotated. So it would be like towels and home goods one day, and then it would be like kids' dresses and baby clothes the next. And you were like, nothing ever makes sense here. It, like, the aisles were too small. Everything just always felt wrong. So it was like known as the weird Kmart for years and years. And then when it closed, it just looked even worse because they would still turn on those weird yellow lights, and then the mannequins, like, who were just like naked with no clothes, are lined up in the darkness where you can see them if you're looking in the windows and you're like, who? It just looked awful. So this building on Broadway where the store was on the first floor, like it's an office building. Other things were there. And even people that work in those offices were saying like, oh yeah, I try not to even walk by it. I go in the other entrance. I don't want to be close to this store. It has always given me the chills. It was just an upsetting Kmart. And you can Google this place. I hope some of you are Googling it while you listen. Actually, you're free to. Astor Place in New York City. It just like looked weird. So then also in New York, if you go a little further north, there is a creepy old Kmart in Buffalo that straight up just got turned into a haunted house because everyone was also so terrified of it. There is this thing called Fright World, which is just like a creepy Halloween theme park. And they decided to host their like annual theme park inside the old Kmart, which I'm sort of like, good for you. Like find somewhere that's scary. That's so smart.
Totally
capitalize on that. Exactly. Everyone hated it already. So they're like, we're just going to have a haunted house in here. And they're doing very well because it's horrifying. They're using the escalators in like the best ways, setting them up to just be creepy as hell. They ran with it. Then we hop on over to SoCal, coming to the opposite coast. And there are apparently 2 old K-Marts in this area that are also very haunted, specifically in the stock rooms. 2 people separately reported very close together on a Reddit thread that there were haunted K-Marts. It was on Twitter and in Reddit, actually. They were stating that the stock rooms had visitors, which I find bizarre and all a part of this K-Mart conspiracy that I'm completely buying into. Can't even lie. There's one just outside of LA that apparently has the ghosts of 3 scorned lovers because there was a love triangle going on with 3 of the employees working in the stockroom, and it ended up in a double homicide, which happened outside of the store, but it is believed that their angry energy stuck around because they did work in the stockroom, and people who worked in the stockroom after those scorned lovers moved out have been totally creeped out. The feeling of being watched, the things being moved around, those late night inventory shifts, which if you've worked in retail, you know all about those nights, like weird shit would happen. So that one is really bad. And then in Bellflower, California, that is the other Kmart that apparently has the sweetest ghost ever. So we have a good story to add to the Kmart theories. It is believed to be a female. People claimed we just felt it was a female presence, but who actually knows? And it is believed that she would hang around, clean up the stockroom, which just makes me smile and giggle.
We just talked about that in the last episode. That's all I want my ghosts to do is help out around the house.
We want them to help out. Yes, we talked about how, like the bookstore owner was joking, like, could you just like contribute? And this lady, as they believe, apparently did. That things would be neatly put back on shelves between the night shift and the morning shift. Clothes would be folded. The floor would be swept. Like, if I could just get a ghost that pitches in, like, give me every ghost. I wouldn't be scared. I, right now, feel like I'm too stressed out and overwhelmed to have a ghost in my life, but if they cleaned my house, I'd be all right with it. So I thought that was really funny. But Kmart, that is the end of my Kmart thing. I can move on, but like what?
What do you think is going on there? Do you think that it's because it's a liminal space that people are creeped out by them, and then therefore they've got, I don't know, they've already got the creepy feeling, they're already on edge, so they're more susceptible to experience something? Or did the inventor of Kmart curse the company?
I'm going to go with option 2 because it's more fun. No, the only reason I don't think it's only liminal space is because people are reporting things happening, especially in that one that like in the heart of New York City. Like things felt off just during the day, like during the hustle and bustle. Because yes, in the stockroom situations, if you are working that late shift, there's usually like 1 or 2 of you, maybe 3 in the case of the love triangle, hanging out in those stock rooms. And it does feel a little empty and creepy. And the store is empty. So if you're to walk out of the stock room into the store, that would also probably look unsettling. And I know that the abandoned ones, as I claimed, like they do look horrifying and they were not, kept up with. But like to hear about the one in New York that was just like, even at its busiest time, felt off and now is just creepier than ever. I don't know what to say about that. Like that makes me think yeah, whoever created K-Mart put a spell on the company. I don't know. I don't like it, though. It creeps me out.
Well, that's interesting.
And I know. When I first read it, I was like, shut up. Kmart was fine. And then I thought about the one in Sheridan Village that shut down Peoria. And I was like, I never enjoyed how that place looked after it shut down. But anyway, abandoned places in general and liminal spaces, as we've talked about, just give you the creepy, crawly feeling. And you can chalk it up to that. Like, these large department stores just look weird when they're not filled with workers and shoppers. But I want to move on to one of the ones that made me smile the most, even though it's kind of creepy, just because it's unexpected. I'm going to start with the story behind it of this very fun and unexpected haunting. In the 1880s, in Sunnyvale, California, which is up north closer to San Jose, not too close
like
to
where
us down here.
Buffy would be from.
Exactly. Sunnyvale. That can't be real. The tale goes that a traveling preacher fell for a rich merchant's daughter who dumped him, left him out of the blue, broke his heart. And shortly after, the sad, lovesick man who worked on the merchant's orchard decided he had to kill himself. He couldn't go on anymore. So he gashed himself with an axe and he bled to death completely alone on the orchard.
Jeez.
A century later, the orchard is closed, and the dead preacher's spirit is still haunting the area, but now a corporate toy store was built over the orchard, scaring the employees and shoppers half to death, and so goes the story of the haunted Toys R Us in Sunnyvale, California.
Oh, no.
I know. I was like, stop it. This can't be real. This store became super famous. I couldn't believe I hadn't heard of this, honestly, because there were a ton of stories. Some of the most famous hauntings here in California happened at this Toys R Us, which R.I.P. Toys R Us. They don't exist anymore.
What was the mascot's name? It was a giraffe.
It was a giraffe. Jeffrey.
It was Jeffrey the whole time.
Sweet. It was Jeffrey, you guys. It was a giraffe that was haunting this place. Everybody. So employees at this specific store complained of a lot of creepy feelings, toys flying off of shelves, and even some possessed plumbing. Yes, the women's bathroom was one of the spookiest spots in the whole dang place. And a couple of newspapers reported that the weird happenings began basically immediately after the opening in the 1970s. Like these ghosties wasted no time. It was like the store opened, it was brand new, here we go, never a dull moment. Spirits appeared, weird things started happening at Toys R Us. And it drew the interest of paranormal investigators, of course. And in the 80s, a really famous psychic at the time, Sylvia Brown, held seances there. She came in and was like,
wow.
I gotta get in here.
I know that name.
Jeffrey Giraffe. I know. She has little videos, like it's super grainy 80s quality, so it's super fun to watch. And she's got the biggest shoulder pads, like it's worth a watch.
Does she have videos at the Toys R Us?
She does. I actually haven't watched them because they were really long. And I was like, I want to save this for after I talk about it. Like, I just want to go over the history and then like snuggle in and do a watch after we finish. But I believe she's there and not just being interviewed about it. But either way, she had a lot to say about it. But yes, shoulder pads for days. Sylvia Brown, she came in. She checked it out and was like, this is a gold mine. There is so much happening here. And she... I guess something crazy happened on a show called That's Incredible from the 80s that you can all look up. And so Sylvia Brown and a camera crew visited the store and they wanted to seek out what was happening and bothering all these innocent folks just trying to get their Barbies and their stuffed animals and all of that. And she was quoted as saying, I really feel him now. I think he's in the back. He's coming along very quickly. Oh, I feel him. It's Johnny or Yanni. Oh, he's coming this way. And she just kept going on. Like, I feel a Johnny. I feel a Yanni. I feel a male. He's coming this way. And then she said, oh, it is a man very unaware of his own death, and he's searching for his long-lost love.
Oh, geez.
Which, of course, confirms the story we all desperately want to believe about the orchard and the dead preacher and the axe.
Yeah.
Let's go. So everyone was very excited about that. And some of these details, as go with legends and hauntings and all of that. It's hard to confirm with the axe and everything.
Yeah.
There was definitely an orchard there before the Toys R Us was built. There was some drama over the sale, but was the drama the orchard merchant's daughter in love with the unstable preacher? We don't know.
Right.
It's fun to believe, as we always say, but we're not sure. So it could all just be for fun, but either way, scary things have definitely happened over the years. Employees had to have a buddy system for using that women's restroom I talked about because...
Can you imagine?
Toilets. Yes.
You're going to have to take a dump.
You got to get on your walkie-talkie. Sarah, you got to come with me.
Sarah,
I got to poop,
you
and you're going to have to stand there.
on the talkie with me while I drop this deuce?
I got to drop some kids off in the pool, and I'm going to need you to tell me a funny story over the walkie, if you could.
I've never heard that one before. That's hilarious.
No, really?
Never.
Like my dad always used that.
Oh my God.
Maybe not. Where did I learn that? Who knows? Either way. The toilets would flush on their own. Sinks turning on and off, lights turning on and off, strange sounds coming from the stalls that were not occupied. Something was going on, whatever the story may be. It could have been a ghost with a little indigestion.
Yeah, we don't know.
They were just trying to get some peace and quiet in the potty.
Well, I wonder, do restrooms count as liminal spaces?
I was wondering that as well.
Because we have a lot of them. Bathroom stories.
Yes. Bathroom ghost stories are very common. And when I was looking at some liminal spaces on Reddit a couple of days ago, people did show the walk to get to stalls in one of those long, wide bathrooms where there's a lot of stalls, and they showed it as a liminal space, and I was sort of
yeah, I mean,
does a bathroom count? But that makes sense.
Spend a little bit more time in a bathroom than say a hallway. But it is very much so
it's a walkway to get to the stall.
True,
so
yeah.
I was with you where I was sort of does this count? But I mean, they looked creepy as hell in the photos people were posting where it was after hours in a long bathroom. And I also think of Scream when Ghostface was hanging out in the stall.
Sure.
Hate it. But yeah, I was sort of does this count? However, lots of bathroom ghosts. So it could have been a ghost that was just, having some stomach issues because there was a lot of bathroom activity, but also things were happening up and down the aisles and people were feeling messed with. So definitely something happening at this store, no matter what the history was. The store would go on to close. Toys R Us went into bankruptcy back in 2018, sadly. Hilarious, though, as I'm sure this happened with a lot of Toys R Us stores. This specific one in Sunnyvale, immediately after closing, became a Spirit Halloween while the space waited to be bought out. We love to see it, especially when there were, tales of ghosts already. Why not make it a Halloween store? But the latest news is that an REI is about to buy the space, which is camping, outdoor, those kind of people. I am the opposite of those, so I can't fully understand, but we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled and see if this Sunnyvale REI has their mountain bikes and their tents flying off the walls when they open, or if this ghost only wanted to mess with the toy buying type. I don't know.
Maybe they moved on.
They could have moved on. I just wanted to give, I know we're running out of time, I wanted to just give some honorable mention shout outs that we didn't need to go into a whole story for because it was small details, but just are fun because you're why? The Walmart in Galveston, Texas, which is also a city that is just home to a lot of hauntings. There's a lot of history in Galveston. But a big old Walmart was built over St. Mary's Orphanage. Just
come on.
Asking
Walmart.
for trouble. A hurricane took out St. Mary's Orphanage, killing all of the children and nuns inside, which I'm sorry to laugh. That is a horrific story. It was in the early 1900s.
Why did you laugh, you monster?
I didn't. I think I was laughing at listen to what I'm about to tell you. It's the most horrible thing ever to lead to this.
Yeah, it wasn't just an orphanage, which is already kind of a sad place.
Yes.
Everyone there died from a hurricane.
It was taken out.
Good Lord.
And children and nuns were taken out, and then nothing took over it for years. But then eventually, as happens, a Walmart took over and, just thought this is going to be the best spot for us. And people mainly complain of children giggling, children crying, a lot of almost prank-like activity taking place, which all makes sense for kid ghosts, if that's what's taking place, like things being thrown off the shelves after somebody like just stacked the shelf, or, you know, feeling your pants tugged on like a kid is behind you asking for something, those kind of things. Nobody has felt like terror or horror, because I think everyone can tell it's a childlike presence that is there, but
that's
absolutely is somewhat good, but annoying, there's definitely some activity,
but nice.
Annoying for the workers, but yes, it exists, it's happening. And then the last one, shout out to Wilmington, Massachusetts. There is a grocery store called The Market Basket.
Oh, I saw that pop up a lot when I was looking.
Did you?
Yeah.
I know. It's insane. It's like one of the scarier hauntings that people reported, but I was laughing because the name is Market Basket, which couldn't be cuter. Just sounds like the most fun name of a grocery store. Like, that is where I'd want to shop if I lived nearby. Precious little store. Couldn't hurt a fly. But instead, for absolutely no reason, it's one of these where it's like, I see no history on the land. There should be no reason for this. There is a woman in a nightgown who walks up and down the aisles and scares the hell out of employees and shoppers. She has also been seen in the store's parking lot and a block away outside of somebody's house, hanging out in their driveway, which is very strange. So she has like a block radius of the store. Who is this lady? We may never know.
She could have been murdered and buried in the empty lot before they built
1,000%.
Supermarket, you know what I mean?
And just nobody knows about it. Yeah, like we don't know her story.
Do you know how many bodies are buried without us knowing about it? Infinite.
I know. I can't think about it, but yes, unfortunately, that is so true. So she has a story. We sadly don't know about it, but lots of people have seen this woman, both shoppers and workers alike. It has scared people to the point of, you know, sprinting out of the store. It has made workers question their entire life of if they should be working there or living nearby anymore. But yeah, scary nightgown lady loves clipping them coupons at the local market basket. And those are my stories for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I was trying to think of just randomly trying to think of some things. I know there's a haunted skyscraper in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But
sorry, I was joking. Yes.
You're forgiven. But it was built on top of the location of like a penitentiary. It was a jail.
Yep, there you go.
And that's one of those things where it's later. Like if you know that beforehand, like if you're like, oh, they tore down the old penitentiary and they built a skyscraper, but that's going to be creepy in there. And then it just continues on like, prison used to be here. This place is probably haunted. It's another one of those things where I talked about in the last episode, like, is the suggestibility
exactly
creating all of these events, or is something actually going on there? How do we suss out what's what?
Mm-hmm. And that's why, I tried to avoid those ones with suggestibility as much as I could. Yeah. It was like the Toys R Us, like, maybe had a story, but a lot of that couldn't be confirmed, so it still feels weird. And then same with, like, Market Basket and the K-Marts. You're like, why do these places feel weird? The Walmart in Galveston makes a shit ton of sense. Like, of course.
Yeah, I feel like suggestibility is kind of taken out when you deal with locations like this. Because you're not showing up to, say, a haunted tour of Salem, Massachusetts. You're showing up to buy a toilet brush and a plunger because there was an accident. And
something occurred.
Something occurred. We don't need to talk about it. So you're not there to experience the paranormal. So when you do, it kind of takes the suggestibility out entirely, and then it's up to like, okay, is there something going on in this building? Is there infrasound? Is there a haunting? Is like, what is happening?
What is going on?
Man,
I know, it's fascinating, these random ass places that you're like, why, who,
why
how?
Here?
Why this location? I know.
Well, and I wonder if locations like that, too, are haunted more often than we think. It's just that you'd never notice unless you worked there, because there's never a time where it's empty or where the music is off or where the lights aren't on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I would have never thought anything weird or creepy about the Barnes and Noble I worked in, but I have a very, it's a fuzzy memory, and I wish I could remember the details. But I remember that one day I saw a man in the stock room and had like a back and forth conversation of just like very simple like questions, because I thought it was Casey who was the like receiver
Oh boy.
in the stock room, and he wasn't in there, and I
Oh
was
my
alone.
gosh.
And
Ashley.
so just stuff like that where it's like what happened to Barnes and Noble?
Why Barnes
Who was
and
that
Noble?
guy?
Who was it, and why? Was
Why?
anything here before? Does he just like the stockroom at Barnes and Noble? We don't know.
Is it me that's haunted? Yeah, there's
Well,
so many
yes,
different.
Ashley, yes.
Well, yeah, probably. There's so many
We do know
different
that.
theories of what could be happening.
I know.
And we just need to get rid of those ethical requirements and
Gosh dang it, and we could have a good study on our hands.
could
Throw
really
out the
find some
ethics.
shit out. Well, that is all the time we have this week for Keep It Weird. Thank you for joining us once again. I believe today is April 1st, so happy April Fools Day. Happy April,
April
Fools.
Fools.
Do you wish a happy April Fools?
I don't know,
Or do you
because it's
just
like
shout
kind of the
April
day
Fools?
of trickery and like sometimes sadness if you're the one being tricked.
Yeah, if you're the one being tricked all the time. All right, well, happy April Fools. Happy April. Enjoy those April showers because you know they bring May flowers.
Aw.
Please consider donating to our Patreon at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. That's how we make all of our funds to produce this show. You can donate $1, $5, $10, or a donation number of your choice once, or you can set it up to be recurring monthly, and in exchange you get bonus episodes, a weekly news, or some weekly, no, absolutely not, you get a
Do we have
one
the
a month.
time?
You get a monthly newsletter full of true crime, horror movie, and spooky tales. You get discounts on merch, you get shout outs on the show. It's a pretty sweet deal if I do say so myself.
Definitely.
You can also get some merch at www.keepitweirdpodcast.com/merch. It's actually sends you to our TeePublic store, and we have a ton of cool designs, and you can get t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, jackets, masks. I think there's even some masks on there if you want to keep it weird. Mask, like face mask for
What?
like COVID mask. Yeah, so
That's so
check
cool.
that out if you want to rep our show wherever you may go. And also, of course, follow us on social media at Keep It Weirdcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, sometimes Twitter, never TikTok. We try our best, but follow us there.
Wish.
And look forward to Witchy Wednesdays, Medium Mondays, and Tarot Tuesdays, because it's going to be a good time.
We love it.
We are recording this the exact same day that we recorded the last episode, so we don't know if our manifestation came true, but do we want to try and
Right.
manifest something else?
I know. What else
We
do we want to manifest?
You know what? We've focused on ourselves enough. We
Right.
should focus on the world. Why don't we manifest gas prices to go down?
Gas prices.
Everybody,
Please
come
go
on.
down.
Just think about it, like the economy,
Put it out there. Put it out
gas
into the world.
prices.
People being able to find work in general. Like, yes,
Big
we try to
oil.
manifest for ourselves, but
Yes.
people like finding work, gas prices going down, people feeling like that they can get by in a more
Big oil companies need to find a conscience
Ugh,
and
please
sell gas
let
for
people be able to drive
less
their
money.
cars.
All right, gas prices. Everybody, focus on those gas prices. Just tick, 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 going all the way down.
We need to be able to live.
Wow. Maybe not all the way down. That's like the collapse of society. This is the thing.
Yeah, it is.
This is the thing about
Go to a
manifesting
reasonable price.
that makes me worried. What if it's one of those things where like, oh, be careful what you wish for? Monkey's paw. This is what I'm worried
Yep.
about. I'm worried
You
about a
manifest
monkey's paw
too hard.
situation.
Yep.
All right,
We're
so
gonna
be
go down
very
to the
careful,
opposite
guys.
end of the
We're
spectrum.
gonna
Be super
gas
careful.
prices are gonna go down to a reasonable price. They're not gonna
reasonable
disappear
spot where
entirely.
we can live. That's more
Yeah.
what I was saying. Like, let us live
Let us live.
reasonably
Let us live
and drive our cars. Thank
and
you.
drive our cars, and also
Keep
keep it
it
weird. It's kind of like a dream come true. Like,
yes.
I would love it.
We would have loved that. Yeah.
But also,
if we were like doing an investigation, we would have like cried of joy. But yes, creepy as fuck.